I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're diving into the world of sustainable living with Katalina Klein, author of From Box to Home, the transformative journey of converting shipping containers into livable spaces. This inspiring book is more than a guide. It's an exploration of how shipping containers can be transformed into beautiful, eco-friendly homes. If you're curious about unconventional architecture or affordable housing solutions, you won't want to miss this exciting conversation. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank the team at Bookside Press for helping us put her in the spotlight today. We ask viewers like you to support authors like her by subscribing to our channel and by purchasing her amazing book. The links are below this interview. Katalina, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
It's my
Looking
pleasure.
forward.
What inspired you to start working with shipping containers as livable spaces?
I have been a real estate broker for over 20 years and living in Los Angeles and working in the Los Angeles area. And about 10 years ago, I started seeing a trend where the middle earners, as I call them, were forced away from the area in which they worked. So you had city officials, you had firemen, teachers that were pushed away. And if you know Los Angeles, it's really complicated to get from one end to the other.
Hmm.
And so they were living about an hour plus from where they were working. And so I started thinking about how can we provide more affordable solutions? You don't have to live so big. Maybe you
Mhm.
can live smarter. And that's where the idea of working with shipping containers came from.
Yeah, we all know the stories of firefighters or cops or teachers that drive 60, 70, 80, 100 miles to get to work because they need to live in an affordable place while earning a moderate income. So it's very, very tough. It seems to me that one of the biggest obstacles to container living, cubed housing, smaller housing is zoning laws, that it's often precluded because of that, right? Don't we need to change some zoning laws in this country and open up all this vast land we have and start putting some small, sensible housing on it?
I agree with you 100%. Could not agree more. And that was one of our biggest challenges. And so the way we work is that we are modular, which means that we work with factories that are approved to work in California, and the state of California approves our homes. So we don't go to the individual towns, counties, etc., to apply for permits. We go through the state. So we get the state approval, and then the house is able to live anywhere in California. But then you still have to contend with the local zoning laws, which are complicated. Oh, we don't like this flat roof. We don't like metal siding. We don't like this. We don't like that. So you are 100% correct.
And meanwhile, the alternative is people living in squalor in some cases, or on the street, or in tents. And they're complaining that, that they don't like the design of this certain modular home. And we know what it's all about. It's elitist. It's about people wanting to preserve, X number of acreage in their, neatly manicured neighborhoods, to the detriment of average working class people, right?
Yeah, the NIMBY, right? Not in my backyard.
Exactly, exactly. So tell us about your book. What will folks find within the pages of your book?
I approach the book a little bit differently than most shipping container books that are currently on the market. A lot of them are do it yourself. And living, at least here in California, doing a yourself project with shipping containers, I just thought it would be so complicated given all the requirements. So the book is more of a guide. It gives you an idea. It's not a very in-depth
Mhm.
look at the process. It's more of a look at the entire process from design to permitting to the engineering process and all of the elements that you can expect. So that my hope was when it was to demystify the process a little bit and give folks enough information so that they could talk to their contractor, fabricator, architect um, with already information
Yeah.
and to facilitate the conversation.
Wonderful. Tell us about your business, Cubed Living.
Cube Living was started in about 2017, 2018, with the idea in mind to try to create affordable, or affordable is a big word in California, so I call it attainable housing for the middle earners. And it was a rough start. It was a really rough start. Um, uh, 2, 3 years trying to find backers, trying to explain to people what I was doing, and people are like, "Who wants to live in a box?
Mm.
Want it burned down? How do you exit?" Um, so I started with a showroom where I transformed two small shipping containers into a one-bedroom home. So people were able to come live, live, come, tour, sit, and just sort of experience what it was to be in a shipping container. And that's where it took off. Um, and then the other obstacle was trying to explain to city officials that this was a safe way of living. This was
Mm.
a more sustainable way of living. And now, about 7, 8 years later, we have done a lot of very cool builds, big builds, all over California, some outside of California, but mostly in California.
Wonderful. What are the key benefits of using shipping containers for housing?
There's several, well, you could look at it both ways, but I'll be a proponent of shipping containers in this case. You are repurposing something that is otherwise, it's not going to go back to China, not going to go back to Korea. It's just going to sit in a yard. So you're repurposing something, and you're starting with small boxes. And so when we design, we look at it as, let's be really, really, really efficient. And you're trying to be really thoughtful in a small space. Granted, we have many, we can put 10, 20 shipping containers together, but the goal is to live in a more sustainable fashion,
Mm.
and therefore to use less room and have the same amount of um, stuff, space.
Or living space, yeah. How
Exactly.
many shipping containers minimum would you say is needed to create a livable space?
1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms, three.
Say, yeah, let's say 2 bedrooms. Would you need 3 containers?
We have done some, we have our smallest is 480 square feet with 2 bedrooms, one bath.
Wow.
And it's really cute, very efficient, but small.
Right.
But I think that 640 square feet gives you a very comfortable 2 bedrooms, two baths.
Yeah.
The
What's the,
idea is
as,
more indoor outdoor space. And so to take advantage of the outdoor space and put decks and sliders and just to have that kind of indoor outdoor living.
Exactly, exactly. When you see them on Instagram and you see them on social media, they're usually beautifully lit. They have, like you said, beautiful decks and awnings and things like that. And it makes it very inviting that you've got this little cozy place to sleep and maybe cook your meals, but you're coming outside to eat your meals perhaps, or even grill and enjoy life, to read a book and so forth. And I think it really does appeal to today's generation that tends to be very mobile. I mean, people aren't tied to an office anymore. So they can live lakeside in a container home as long as they can get an internet connection, which is soon going to be widely available via satellite. They're at home. And it's going to open up a lot of possibilities for people. Let's talk a little bit about price point. What does a person need to look to invest in a house like this? I see houses in suburban New York. Houses are roughly $1 million for a regular house, a simple house. I'm sure it's the same in California. And obviously, different markets around the country are different. But to get into a container home, let's say a 2 bedroom, one bathroom, what would be the approximate price point?
Unfortunately, it's not a lot cheaper.
Hmm.
And the reason for that are all the regulations.
Yeah.
Um, so a shipping container home has to abide by the same building codes
Right.
as a regular home. So you're starting with the exact same requirements, and then you use the same materials. And then you start by having to purchase your primary matter and modify it. Therefore, it is built in factory, and therefore there are economies of scale.
Hmm.
Factory setting is more efficient.
Hmm.
There's less waste. And therefore, at the end of the day, there's maybe a 10-15% savings, but not what people usually think of.
Right.
Now,
Like you
if
said,
you
if regulations are relaxed a little bit to um, accommodate the housing crunch, if zoning laws are changed a little bit, and the more popular these cubed homes become, the more cost effective they're going to be, right? The more you make, the cheaper it's going to be, like any mass production, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
that's exactly right.
Before we leave you today, what would you like the folks at home to take away from your book?
Um, there's a lot of misinformation on the internet about container homes. And I get a lot of phone calls of people and this is why I wrote the book, because there was such misinformation, people really not understanding what it was to build a shipping container home. So the aim of the book is really to explain the process and to get an understanding of everything that it entails. And so, for anybody that is curious, that is thinking about building a shipping container home, I think it's a great guide.
No, absolutely. One question that came to my mind is if there are wheels on it and it's not a permanent structure, if it's viewed as perhaps an RV, then is it more, or is it more easily put into neighborhoods and so forth?
No, well, I shouldn't say that. Then you don't, it's no longer a modular home. You go through the DMV, it's a completely different permitting process. And as you know, there's a lot of places that don't allow RVs.
Right.
Um, and the tiny home movement is actually a combination of what I do with mobile homes. And so
Mm.
they're taking these little structures, putting wheels on them, and making them mobile. So that is more of the tiny home movement. So
Right.
everybody's trying to address one way or other the shortage, right?
Right.
Of,
Yeah.
of
The only thing they're battling is government. We talk about how crazy housing is today and how many people are living on the street. We just have an influx of maybe 10 to 15 million migrants come to this country. We're putting them up in hotels that are two, three, four, $500 a night. There are permanent solutions like cubed living and container housing that might be an investment first, but will be sustainable and lasting and not money out the window like paying for a hotel room. So it's a very, very fascinating topic. The name of the book is From Box to Home, The Transformative Journey of Converting Shipping Containers into Livable Spaces. Everything you ever wanted to know about living in a small space or a shipping container, but were afraid to ask, it's contained within this book. It's a wonderful exploration of how shipping containers can be transformed into beautiful, eco-friendly homes. If you're curious about unconventional architecture or affordable housing solutions, you will want to pick up this book for sure. The links are below this interview. Katalina, thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
It was wonderful. Thank you.
Wonderful speaking with you as well. To the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.